great to be here this afternoon. This is probably a rare occasion for me because I'm usually online in the evening doing live, so it's really nice change of pace to do them in the afternoon. So my name is Kim C. Lee, and I am a children's book author. I am a creator, and I am a creative coach from Maryland. And my journey for writing children's books was really inspired by my son. I've always loved books, reading them, but I really wrote my first book as a gift to my son. I wanted him to have something. We had a little laugh about him not going to sleep, and I told him, I'm going to make this a book, and you're going to have this and remember it. And so that was my first book, The Night Owl, and that's how it all began.
Nice. And I know, I feel like so many of us can relate to that book. I've had that experience. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because like you mentioned, you were inspired by your son to start writing, but your books really focus on highlighting perspectives and experiences of African-American children. So what inspired you to do that, and how do your books help validate those experiences?
Yeah, so I think it's really important for everyone to see themselves and characters in books. The adventures that you see, the people you encounter, and so forth. When you see that in a book, especially for children, their minds are very impressionable. When they see that, they know that something is possible. They know that if they're experiencing it, it's normal, right? It's not this like outlandish thing. For me personally, I know that a lot of people write like fantasy, or they have stories that aren't necessarily rooted in truth. But I try to write stories that, you know, I look at my son and I say, can he relate to this? Or my second book, Meet Frankie Jordan, that's about my niece. This is a relatable story. It's closer to real life. It's not, you know, something made up. And I think it's important that, you know, African-American children can see themselves in these stories that are real, so they feel validated. These are stories that are worthy to be told. There is someone else out there like you experiencing the same thing, and it's okay. It's a great thing. You know, so that's the reason why I focus on that.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about Night Owl? And actually, I don't know if you saw, there was a comment from Activity Author. Says that I love doing the craft video with Night Owl.
Yeah.
Such a great book. Yes,
she did. So The Night Owl is, as I said before, it was inspired by my son. And it starts off with this little boy. I mean, I only have one child, but I have learned over time that kids not going to sleep, you know, we were all children at some point. And I'm actually an early bird. So I'm not the kid who stayed up all night. I like to go to sleep early and wake up at the crack of dawn. Right. But my sister, she was a night owl, but we never spoke about her like that. But my son, he's a night owl. He likes to stay up. He doesn't want to go to bed. All the little faces and stuff of the character in the book, like those were based on my son. So the night owl follows this little boy as he's been told, you know, it's time to go to bed. And he's like, no, you know, I don't want to go to bed. I want to do all these other things to help me stay or keep from going to sleep. Eventually sleep catches up with him, but it's, you know, the things that he does are very, very relatable. Jumping on the bed and looking under the bed for monsters, you know, these things are all relatable. And what I found is that not only kids can relate to it, but adults. Parents look at it and they say, this is my kid. Yes. I have kids look at it, and even though it's based on my son, they see themselves in the character. So I think it's one of those nighttime, bedtime stories that's universal. Everyone can relate to it regardless.
And you're getting a lot of really great comments. Someone saying that Night Owl is their favorite book. Someone else read it. So, and I'm curious, what does your son think about it? So he owns it. He is the Night Owl. If you've ever been on the phone with me and we've mentioned it, he said, make sure you tell them I am the Night Owl. And I'm a celebrity. I need you to know this. When we go out, and he says, this book is about me. This book is really about me. Yeah, so he's really proud of it. We'll see if he continues to be proud of it as he gets older. It may become something that he's like, okay, I'm over it at this point. Now. Yeah. Right, but right now he's very proud of his Night Owl title, and he uses it as a reason to stay up. Remember, I'm the Night Owl. I should be able to stay up a little bit later. So it doesn't quite work that way. And then you got another comment. Yes, every mom can relate to this, definitely. Yeah. Well, so moving on to your other book, which I didn't realize you said was inspired by your niece, and that's Meet Frankie Jordan. And I love that this one is all about being different, but
Yeah.
learning that that's a good thing, embracing what's unique, but also learning to appreciate what's different about other people. So why is that such an important message?
Yeah, so this is Meet Frankie Jordan. In this case, for this book, my niece, she's an artsy kid. She loves art. And, you know, typically we as adults or society really push for children to pursue careers or endeavors that are more focused in stuff like the things that we feel like you'll be successful in. You can make a money, you can, you know,
Right.
make a living off of this and so forth. But art deserves that space too. And I watched her as she grew up, and all she wanted to do was draw. She didn't care that people were outside, you know, playing tag. She didn't care that someone was going skating. I mean, she liked to play with other kids, but art was really her focus. So I felt it was important to create this book so that other kids like her know that it's okay. It's okay to follow who you are. It's okay to be different from others. But at the end of that, we have to accept one another, right? So just because we have differences does not mean that we can't be friends with each other. We can't respect one another and so forth. And on top of that, I always felt like she would find her tribe, you know, especially in the art world. I have friends when I went to college. I met a lot of people who were pursuing art, and they found their tribe just like everyone else. So I always believe that. So part of this book at the end is, you know, finding your tribe and the people that accept you, even though you're all different. It's totally cool. It's totally fine. But I think that's a really, really important message for children to hear.
Yeah, especially I think a lot of us felt different as kids, and it helps to know that when you get older, you're going to meet more people. Like you said, that you're going to find your tribe. Did you feel like that growing up? I know this is about your niece and more about like the art, but I know you were kind of like a bookworm kid and you loved reading. Did you ever feel like that too? Like everybody else is outside playing and you'd rather be in with a book?
Oh, no, I was actually, I don't consider myself an extrovert. I'm a introverted extrovert. I like to do a lot of things. So I was the person, I like to read. I like, you know, I was a kid who liked school, but I also did sports. I cheered, you know, I tried everything.
Kind of did both,
right? So I also think that aspect allowed me to meet a lot of different people and understand how a lot of people different work within their environments and so forth. Maybe I'll write something about that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And I want to also have, because I'm just watching our time, I want to talk about your last book, which is your latest book, I should say, not last one, but Grand Joy, which reminds us to find joy in the small things. So I was wondering, one, what inspired you to write it? And two, what was it like? Because I understand this was a collaborative book. So what is that process like?
Yeah, so Grand Joy came out of a really interesting place. If you can remember back to the beginning of the pandemic, and we were all huddling in our houses. We were like, no one wants to go out, or we couldn't go out. We were, you know, scared. We didn't know what it was, coronavirus was, and so forth. And, you know, the friendships that I had, we continued them, but the nature of them changed. So instead of us going out to meet, we were on the phone or we were on Zooms. You know, it was totally different. You couldn't shake anyone's hands, give them a hug, go to the park. None of those things were available to us anymore. And my co-author, Denise, I've known her for so many years, and we have a great friendship. And we would talk about this, the fact that we kind of lost these small things that humanize us, that we don't really, not that we don't appreciate them, but we don't really give them the due that they should get, the credit that they should get. And we said we should write a book about it. Now, the tricky part here, or the other part here, is that she has grandchildren. And for as long as I've known her, probably before I've known her, she has called or referred to them as her grand joys. So it was like a double yes, you know, there are these small things that give us this huge happiness, and then also her grandchildren also bring her this huge happiness. That was the thing for her that brought her the grand joy. So this book really came out of making sure, trying to share a story with people to remind them that they should take stock in these small things in life. It's actually, I'm not sure if those on the line have looked at it, but it was written, or it was created, illustrated by Gabrielle Flood, but we wanted it to look more like a scrapbook. Like, go down memory lane and remember all these, you know, small things that made you very happy. Right. And Denise and her family are heavily represented in the book. We wanted to make sure that we captured that.
Mm.
So that's where Grand Joy came from.
What about you? What brings you grand joy? What are the small things that really keep you going?
I think just waking up in the morning and have the flexibility to do the things that I like to do. My son, he's not a small thing, but you know, you have those moments where things can be slow, you can be tired, and then he said something funny and it just cheers me up totally. It's not necessarily going to a party or, you know, just being able to bump into a friend and say hello and see how they're doing.
Right.
You know, really, really small things. A bubble bath, right? No, you know, we all have hot water, but do we really appreciate that? It's not until you go somewhere when you don't have it, you're thinking, oh, I wish we had some hot water, you know, those sort of things.
And so what was it like for you guys to work on this book together? Like, did one of you do an initial draft and then send it to the other? Were you kind of throwing out ideas together? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm used to writing alone. I think I do have project management experience, and people who know me would say that I can be a little bit anal at times with things. But we use those skills to manage through this project. And it really started off, one of our first sessions with writing was just making a huge list of all the things that made us happy. I will tell you that we kept coming back to food. So there's like a biscuit. Yeah, there's this biscuit thing in there where, you know, we were like, yeah, biscuits make us very happy. We love bread. I mean, and it probably sounds crazy, but food was like a huge thing. And if you think about it, food brings family together, family and friends together. But we made this tremendous list of all the things that we love. I think the process also takes a lot of trust because there's differing opinions, but I think our friendship allowed us to do this in a great way. We had a moment, we had some beta readers that gave us feedback on the book. It's a partially rhyming book. There are parts in it where it rhymes and then it switches and it doesn't rhyme. We got feedback saying, don't do that. But, you know, we really felt that we should keep it that way, I guess. And, you know, it was really an advocate for just getting the feedback. Denise's heart was set in it. So I trusted her and we moved forward, you know, with those pieces of it. But I would say that if you're going to collaborate with someone, there is a high level of trust and respect and appreciation you need to have for that person.
Right. That's really good advice. And now that those are out, can you give us a preview of what you're working on now? Do you have some projects that we can look forward to?
Yes. So I have my next book written, and it's not a secret. You know, I've been talking about it for a while, but I've kind of been stunted because of like illustration stuff. But I'm gonna do another book about the night owl, and he is going to space. So nice. It's written. I just have to get the illustrations done. I'm hoping that I can release it by the end of this year. But you know what? It needs to come out the right way. So if it goes next year, I'm settled in my heart with that. Right. And then other than writing, I'm doing more creative work. So as part of my creative coaching and my content creation hats that I wear from time to time, I help other people with those things. So I've been doing a lot more of that heavily. I think I'm an independently published author. So I think that those in the community, you know, there are significant expenses that you incur along that process. But I am a huge advocate of understanding the process, being able to do some of those things yourself if you would like to. So I enjoy educating people on those things so that they can, you know, save some money here and there. And then I'm also teaching Canva workshops. It's such a powerful tool. I'm familiar with the Adobe suite, but that has a steeper learning curve. But for those of us who are doing this work, the marketing, the promotion, the social media content, print materials, you know, Canva is a great resource for that. So I offer workshops for that. Yep.
Well, do you want to give like a plug out for where people can go if they're looking for the creative coaching or they want to find your, I mean, you can probably see your handle on here, but if you go to Kim C. Lee Writes, you can find all the links. Why don't you tell us?
Well, before it was Kim C. Lee Writes, but I just went through I guess a rebranding of sorts because I did have those two worlds. I have my authoring world and then I have my creative world. So I just merged them into one website. So it's kimclee.com. And my name is very, very common. So I feel blessed to have been able to secure that domain. But yeah, so you can find me at kimclee.com. You can get all the information there. You can register for workshops or contact me if you would like to obtain some support from a creative aspect. And you can see everything related to my books. So all in one spot, you can get it there, kimclee.com.
And you should also look, because if you already are a fan of her books, she has a lot of really cool merch for it. I mean, I love, like, you have like pillows and dolls, and I mean, it's just really fun. If you haven't looked at that, you really need to go take a look.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining. And yes, Patrice McLaren says she's an amazing creative. That is very true.
Thank you, Patrice.
Thank you everybody for joining. And if you joined us late, this is going to be, the whole thing is going to be up on Instagram in a few minutes, and then we'll have it later up on YouTube. So yes, Kim is awesome. I agree. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you for having me.